Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is Patron Hangout number 171. First, before I start, I just want to welcome everybody who's in the chat room. We have a pretty good crowd here, in spite of the fact it's getting near the holidays. And we've got people here from the UK and from Europe, and I'm like, you are staying up late because I know over there it's midnight or 1 o'clock. So either you're insomniacs or I'm going to put you to sleep. Not sure which one. What? Hold on a second. Sarah goes, oh, did you just say muted? Never mind. Okay. The rest of you can hear me. Sarah's just having an issue. All right. So anyway, I'm just pulling my phone out of my clothing here. This is where I stick my phone. I just realized I still had it in there. I wanted to turn it off. It's been a very, very busy week, but again, Melanie says she's an insomniac. So there you go. If you'd like to be in the chat room, by the way, please click on Patreon below. You can join. It's $5 a month. There are 2 live shows a week, and the case show on the weekend, and also this hangout during the week. And you're part of the community as well. And I appreciate the support of this educational channel. But if you don't want to join Patreon, that's fine. Please do subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, get notified, and check my playlists. And you still, even if you're not a patron, you can always contact me on a case you would like me to analyze. So, all right, there we go. Oh, you thank you. Yes, this is I love this behind me. So I'm going to start on this side. So yes, I think this is absolutely one of the most beautiful things I've found. And it is, I don't know quite what it's made out of, but it's like some kind of material. It's not plastic, so it's kind of more like a ceramic, and I thought it was very beautifully made. And even the kings over here, look at these kings. Look at this king, and then he'll open up his. What does he have? He has. Well, I can't remember which Frank. One of the things that they're carrying. I can't remember. Myrrh, frankincense, and gold. So he's got that. And I think this guy, this is the one with the gold. Let me see. Oh yeah, he's got gold in there, see? I just think this is one of the most beautiful sets I've ever seen. And there's the baby in here. Baby Jesus is right here. And his mother's arms. Oh, that was sacrilegious. Oops. And of course, here we have the donkey jitterbug. You know, anybody who knows me knows I have a donkey. And well, I don't have the donkey. The donkey is my daughter's. But where's the picture of the donk? Hold on a second. This could be one of these nights. Nothing works. Why is that there? Go away. Hold on a second. I'm having trouble with my iPhone. Anyway, I can't fix it. So anyway, that's our donkey. And so we call this donkey Jitterbug. So anyway, if you like that nativity set, it is on Amazon, and it's not super cheap, but it's worth every penny. And I just make sure that we don't drop them as we put them out each year. I just stuck holding the donkey pretty much. So yes, and so, but I do love it. It's one of my favorite things. So out it comes once a year and for a couple weeks. So okay, that's enough of that. Let's get on to what the show's about. Because I'll tell you what happens. Somebody will come along, and this has been happening more recently, and it really annoys me. They'll write in the comments, the show starts at minute 4 or minute 5:22. It's like, it's my show. Don't tell people to cut off the first part of the show, because that may be where I'm welcoming people. It might be where I'm encouraging them to subscribe to the show. But you think it doesn't matter. So you're just going to tell people, go to this point in the show. Thanks. So at any rate, very annoying. but that's what people do. Anyway, so let's get to it. I just want to mention this. So I was like, the cleaning ladies came today, and I just want to mention this because I think it's so cool. In case you've never, she made this cute bow. And I mean, it's obviously pretty simple, but I would never have thought of doing that. And I just think that's so pretty. It's like being on a cruise ship and getting a towel animal. So that's why I like the people that come and clean my house, because they do things like this. It makes me happy. And it's so nice. I think it's cool. And you can make that too. So people selectively listen while they do that. And the other thing is, if they're bored, you just put your finger there and you go like this, and you skip whatever you don't want to see anyway. Everybody has the right to do that. So I want to point out a couple things I talked about. I just recently talked about. I put up this video about the guy who murdered the CEO in New York City. And what I wanted to mention about this is that, wow, you got people doing stuff like this. Now that is freaking appalling. And the issues over this, his name is Luigi Mangion, and he's the alleged killer of Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. And I did a couple videos talking about, there was a lot of glee over this CEO being murdered. And I would say not so much, well, there was glee in the sense that a lot of people didn't have much empathy for him, because there's so much hatred of what I call the insurance cartels, that people had trouble feeling sympathetic, shall we say. So they're like, oh, well, you didn't care about the people who can't get their medical care. You don't care that they're going broke, losing their homes over the fact that the prices are ridiculous and they can't afford the insurance, or insurance is milking them dry. You don't care about all that. So when this guy comes and knocks you off, oh, well. So there's a lot of that sentiment. But in the eyes of Luigi Mangion, if he is indeed guilty, which he had so much evidence with him at the time he was actually captured, like the gun and a manifesto and the fake ID that was seen in New York, and so much. And now his fingerprints have been connected to the scene, and the bullets have been matched to the gun. So I mean, it's like his lawyer's going to have a heck of a time trying to say he didn't do it. But in his own mind, he does consider himself a martyr for the people. And some people think of him that way. And I think that's pretty appalling, because even if you have issues with the healthcare system, it isn't okay to go around shooting down people. And those who do it, you should not be raising up on a pedestal. But one interesting thing that I'm looking forward to finding out, which is interesting to me that they're skipping this. Well, not skipping it, but they haven't come up with the information yet. This show, when I did it, I pointed out the back surgery he claimed to have had in July 2023. And that so many of these media channels have gone forth and said, back pain made him do it. Back pain makes you a murderer. If you have back pain, we're going to be scared of you now. And then the surgery made him a murderer. Well, supposedly he claimed after the surgery he felt great and he could walk and didn't have pain within a day or two. And so a lot of these things, what he's saying, you have to take with a grain of salt. And so what I'm amazed by is that the media channels are talking about how his back pain or his surgery caused him to do this, changed him. And not one of them has actually proven he even had back surgery. He claimed he had back surgery, showed an x-ray. But I want to know, where was his back surgery? Where did it happen? What hospital, what doctor, what kind of surgery, and what were the results? And that is not, it's day after day I've been looking to see where this information is. And this should not be hard to find. If you know where he was staying when he was getting the surgery, you should pretty much know, and it's got to be some way to find out. But I haven't seen anything yet on that. So I'm going to say all of these media channels should not say because he had back surgery, because they don't know that he even did. Now, we may find out he did have the back surgery, but then what kind? He's claiming a back fusion. Well, I've never heard of anybody walking and being out of pain in a day after fusion. A different kind of, more minimal kind of surgery, yes. A laminectomy or something like that, yes. But fusion? Maybe he's incredibly lucky. And if he's incredibly lucky, what's he going down? Why is he shooting down the CEO of United Healthcare? If his surgery worked, and he actually said his surgery was so great, he recommended it to tons of people. What? First of all, most spinal fusions are like 80% of them don't work. And people can be in worse condition than before they got it. And sometimes they say don't get that unless you're absolutely it's like nothing. You can't live as you are, so you're willing to take the chance. Other than that, don't do it. And yet he's out there telling everybody to do it. Now, this is a guy with a high IQ. He's doing tremendous amounts of studies. And yet he says that. What I see in him is psychopathy. I see a lot of that, and therefore I cannot believe what he says. And I don't think the media should believe it either. We have to wait and see what the facts say. But let's see. In a couple days, we'll find out. Yes, I like this. Christopher, you're correct. These political things are just a vehicle for doing his psychopathic crime. Absolutely. I've said this over and over again about mass murderers, and he was considering bombing New York. And then he says, well, I decided I shouldn't take out innocent people. Really? But you thought about it? You thought bombing would be maybe a possibility? So yes, mass murderers never believe their, quote, motive. Let's say you got a white guy, and this one case, I forgot which case it was, but anyway, kills a bunch of black kids, I think it was. It was at the church one. Can't remember. I'm trying to remember which one I'm thinking of. Anyway, it looked like a hate crime. But it turned out that in the past, nobody really saw him have any problem with people of another race. So for a mass murderer or somebody who wants to get their name out there, they often aren't all that political or racist or sexist or any of that stuff. They just like getting the attention, or in their own mind, look how amazing I am. Look what I got away with. Look what I did. They thought I wouldn't do something like that, and I did it. And if they want, they might add on a motive that will appeal to a certain group of people. Like in this case, a lot of people are liking his motive. And on the other hand, sometimes they want to be hated. That's even more fun. I'm going to go kill somebody of another race so that I can be hated, and they won't stop talking about me. Maybe I'll kill children. Is it because I hate children? Or is it because that'll get way more attention than if I go kill some old people? So you cannot trust their motive. And if they give an explanation, even in a manifesto, you can't believe that either. So you're absolutely correct. Very, very good. Let me repeat it. Political things are just a vehicle for doing his psychopathic crime. Absolutely, Christoph. And welcome. Your first time here, and you're already contributing really good information. You got lucky. Oh, 2 back. The second back operation, second with spinal fusion, helped with the pain. I'm glad I had it. I wouldn't be able to walk without it. Well, see, when you can't walk, then it is an option. But it's always that, that's that tricky thing. It's kind of a roll of the dice. So if you have a chance of not needing it, you might not want to get it. But if your life sucks so badly, you're like, oh, what the heck? I got to do something. You might get lucky. And I'm glad you did. I am glad you did. So yeah, that's cool. So that's good. This is also true. Sara says they become somebody through infamy. Right. Somebody said to me, well, they don't care about what other people think. So that's not why they're doing it. No, they care about what they think. They don't care about other human beings, but they care about the manipulation of other human beings that gets them the attention and makes them famous in their own mind, even if, well, sometimes they become famous elsewhere too. But the whole point for them is, what do I think of myself? And yeah, so I'm becoming somebody through the infamy, because before I wasn't enough of somebody. And people will say, but what Luigi Mangion, I mean, the guy had he's a wealthy family, he went to a great prep school, cost a fortune, like $40,000 a year. He's got a master's degree, could do incredible amounts of good work. So wasn't he already someone? Well, sometimes that being someone around other people who are like you is not good enough because you don't feel that special. Other people might think you should think you're special, but you may think, okay, I'm not able to be better than the rest of the people around me, more admired than the rest of the people around me. It's not enough because I can't beat out all the rest of the people around me. And they feel like in their own minds a failure if they can't beat out all those other people. So for him, maybe, in spite of everything he could do, it wasn't enough. So yeah, so we'll see what happens. I want to find out about his back surgery because I'm just fascinated that the media doesn't pay attention to facts. They're like, oh, his friend said, he said on Reddit. Okay, that's not proof. That's just people saying stuff. Let's wait for the proof because I'm really curious about this supposed back surgery. And I don't know if he got it or he didn't get it, or if he really got a fusion or he didn't get a fusion. So let's wait and see. Now, the other thing I talked about today, I did a show on Hannah Kobayashi. Oh, Lord. So if you haven't seen that, I'll link it below. She has been, quote, found in Mexico, found safe, and her family saying, oh, give us some time to, process and, all that stuff. It's like, you basically scammed the public. You put up a GoFundMe for your relative, your daughter, your sister, where in which you knew darn well that she likely walked off on her own, and she was involved in scam herself she was involved in a false marriage, an immigration scam. So the public was played by these people. And so that's what that whole show is about. And and here, speaking of being played, here's something else that's happening. Oh my God, Julia's back. Yes, she is. And there's this channel, don't go there, called Break the Ice. And he's done like 4 different shows on this whole issue. And he's like, why won't the McCanns do the DNA test? Because in spite of the fact, I think the McCanns may be involved with what happened to their daughter, and I don't believe in the abduction theory, the McCanns have no reason to pay any attention to some whack job who's trying to con people. She's a con artist. I wouldn't do that damn DNA test either. So somebody who comes out and says, I'm your daughter, and you know damn well she's not. And the DNA test proved that she's Polish and not British. And the McCanns have no reason to waste their time with this, to step forward, and they don't have any reason to do it. And they don't have to do it in spite of the fact I'm not fond of them. But they said, why don't they do it? You can just prove her wrong. She's already been proven wrong. But yet you jackass, are giving her a platform. I remember being taken. This is the new thing. Remember she went away because she looked bad. And now she's come back again. I remember being taken. Now she's got a whole new phony story. And now her site is back up by Madeleine McCann. She is a con artist, folks. And people feel sorry for her. Stop feeling sorry for con artists, psychopaths who take advantage of you. And I'm amazed how many people, for some reason, especially women, will go, oh, she must be suffering from some kind of, she's suffering from something. Yeah, she's suffering from psychopathy. And she's using you. She's making money off of you. She's getting attention off of you because you're foolish enough to feel bad for her when she's scamming you. So stop doing that. And I don't, any channel who puts her on, you're a grifter. That's my opinion. Yeah, I know Sarah was waiting for me to say the word grifter. But yes, I think you're a grifter. If you have her on knowing full well she's a liar and a con artist, and you put her on your show to make money, you're a grifter. You have no business having her on. So I find that extremely upsetting that you would even do that. But she's going to keep rolling. She's going to keep coming back because there's always somebody who's willing to give her a platform. Yeah. Oh, don't say that. So Pat is a psychic. No, don't say that. You know, Sara knows how much I'm not happy with psychics. Let me go back up here. This is true. Sara says they made him into a victim. I'm not sure what that even means, but yeah, they have made him into a victim. Luigi, and this is a guy who had everything. He was born with that silver spoon. He had the rich family, the great education. He had everything going for him. He looked pretty decent too. So he has very little excuse, except for the fact he's probably was. People deny a lot of things. Families deny. Now friends will say, "Oh, he seemed like a great guy. I didn't see anything wrong with him at all." Yeah, I hear that all the time about serial killers. Well, when he was in high school, he was a great guy. Really? Or is you just too young to realize anything? Families like, we didn't see anything, but yet all kinds of things happened to let them know that this guy was some kind of personality disorder that you just won't admit. So I'm curious to see what we're going to find out in the future, because there's no way you just don't wake up in your 20s and turn into a killer. Now, some people say, "Oh, well, maybe went into psychosis, became schizophrenic." I didn't see anything schizophrenic in his writing, and I recognize schizophrenia in writing because I get letters from schizophrenics who want to tell me something, and my God, I can read it in 3 seconds flat and go, "Oh my God, the person has schizophrenia." His writing is clear. He writes like a psychopath, not like a schizophrenic. So I don't believe he's schizophrenic. And but I'm sure, what the defense lawyer he's got now seems kind of an idiot. But that's the local guy. And I think he's probably going to get dumped, and somebody like Jose Baez will roll in. And I don't know what he's going to go for a defense, but schizophrenia might be the one they'll use because people feel sorry for this person, but they couldn't help themselves. Right? So that's true. Madeleine McCann, the never-ending story, it's a gold mine. That is for sure. But if you're going to talk about that, at least don't be a grifter doing it. So, all right, moving on. I do want to mention. Okay, Ellen Greenberg is kind of back in the news. Her parents are still fighting lawsuits because their daughter, I did a show on her. If I remember, I'll link that below. She was stabbed 20 stab wounds. It was originally ruled a homicide, switched to suicide, and the family's been fighting it forever. And there's most of the time when people say, "Oh, my loved one didn't die of suicide, they were murdered," I usually say, chances are the police are correct. Because family is in denial. They do tend to be in denial. And when I look at the case, I come up with suicide 9 out of 10 times, if not way more than that. Rarely do I come up with a ruling of suicide that I go, this is actually a homicide. Ellen Greenberg is one of the rare ones. I can't understand how they ended up ruling this a suicide, how they believed her fiance, boyfriend, whatever he was, without making sure that that there was any kind of validity in his statements before they released the crime scene and all that. It was horribly handled, and the family, I believe in this case, is correct that she was murdered, and they keep fighting, and they're having a hell of a time. Even civilly, they're having a hell of a time. Because for whatever reasons, they're closing ranks in Pennsylvania and don't want to admit the errors of their ways. And I think that's mostly what it is. I don't know that they're doing it to be mean to the parents, but they just don't want to admit that they screwed up. So I think that's it. Oh, sorry, I had to look down. The cat is here. All of you are wondering about the feral cat. Hello, Mac. Hello, Mac. He's eating his dinner. He's ignoring me. So, yeah, I feel very bad for that family because it's not right. Now, the other thing that popped up in the news is also Ryan Borgwart. I talked about him recently. He's the guy who went kayaking and then supposedly drowned in the lake. And he planned this very elaborate disappearance so that he could go run off to, I think, Ukraine and hook up with some woman he met on the internet. And he deserted his wife and children and let them think that he was dead. And the police, I get so annoyed when I see this happen, reached out to him and said, it's Christmas time. You should come home. Your children miss you. Your wife miss you. I'm like, you actually think this guy cares about his wife and children? It's not just that he ran away with another woman. If he just left a note and says, I don't like this life anymore, I've fallen in love, that's bad enough. But he let them think he died. And now he's supposed to have this great heart for his family. Well, interesting enough, he has returned to the United States. And so, shock of all shocks, let me see if I can find the article on it. They're now saying, oh, see, somehow they did reach out to his heart. No, they didn't. Get out of here. Stop believing that. I'm going to guess that the Ukrainian woman, when she found out what he did, dumped him. And now he's seeking some kind of, he doesn't have anybody. So now he's trying to weasel his way back in. That's what I guess, because I don't believe for a minute that he felt bad. And they're not going to give him very much time in prison, if any. Let me find the article on this. This is Washington, the Washington Post. Kayaker accused of faking his own death, arrested and in custody in the U.S. Okay, he's a husband and father of 3. Accused of staging a kayaking incident to fake his death, abandoned his family and start a new life, has returned to the U.S. and been arrested after the sheriff's investigators turned his alleged gambit into a guilt trip. See, they think they guilted him into coming back. If you're in law enforcement, you ought to understand psychopathy, because that will be this guy too. And I know I say the word psychopath a lot, but people don't understand their level of narcissism in people can go up and down. And it's a kind of, well, let me put it this way. It's a continuum. If you're healthy, you're kind of like in the middle. You care about yourself, but you care about other people too. And you're not a liar, a manipulator. You have a pretty stable personality. When you get up to the level of narcissism, goes higher and higher and higher. You can try to have, along this line, you can have little arrows that say how narcissistic you are, ending up with psychopathy, which at that point you show no empathy whatsoever toward other human beings, highly grandiose thinking, you're manipulative, you're a pathological liar, all kinds of things. So when you get to that end, that's sort of where you are. There's other borderline personality disorder, bipolar. There's all kinds of little things people throw in there, malignant narcissism. But basically, there's no exactness to it. So, but people like to put people in absolute little boxes. It's not really working. But a guy who would desert his family and his children and fake a death, which would cause him immense trauma. I'm going to put him at psychopath. People can argue with me, but that's how I'll put him. So he's not going to feel guilty at all. They don't feel guilt. So now they think, oh my God, we did the right thing. We guilted him into coming back. No, you didn't. I'm pretty sure the new Ukrainian, I think she was Ukrainian, like whatever she was, who's online, dumped him, or he got tired of her. Or she wanted too much money from him, whatever it was. So anyway, he's 45 years old. He was charged with obstructing an officer, a misdemeanor, punishable up to 9 months in jail, and a $10,000 fine. Okay, so now his not guilty plea was entered, and let's see. So the amount of money, and it's like the Sherry Papini thing. Now, both of them harmed their families, wasted the time and money for the police department, and also the time and money of the public, because they went out there searching for him, and that sense, all kinds of ways they tried to help. But neither one of them should have any kind of sympathy, and they should, I believe, get slammed with at least 5 years in prison. At the same time, sheriff's investigations emailed Borgwart a message that included a photo of a woman he'd gone to meet, one with whom he had been secretly communicating with for months. His Heart hit the floor and knew that he made a mistake. It's painful when I see people fall for this nonsense and promote this nonsense. No, he didn't. Oh, his heart hit the floor. He didn't have a heart. Get out of here. So anyway, Borgwart started communicating with the investigators. I'm pretty sure that the woman he was with somehow either found out about that. Something happened to him that made it so that he thought he had to pull a deal because something wasn't going well on the other side of the pond. So anyway, it went on for a month, and then he told them about his plans and how they'd all unraveled. Oh, they unraveled. You see, well, wait a minute. There we go. Unraveled. His plans with this woman unraveled. See there, it's about him. It's about him. He told investigators he spent months planning. He allegedly took out a $375,000 life insurance policy. He researched how to disappear, stage a death, and make money in other countries. Everything hinged on me dying in that lake. The whole idea was to sell the death to the children and the wife, not just the police. What a cruel and horrible kind of a human being you are. Around August 8th, everything set up. He did a lot of work, let me tell you. He attended church with his family, then returned home to prepare, loaded up an e-bicycle he had bought a few weeks earlier and stashed in his shop. Worried about surveillance cameras, he allegedly pulled his trailer to a building so they wouldn't capture the footage of the secret bike. He bought a hat and a backpack at Walmart and visiting a friend's house. Why did he go to a friend's house? He arrived at Green Lake about 10 p.m. He had dodged the security check, stashed his e-bike and helmet and backpack in the trees, and then kayaked into the lake. He went to the deepest part of the lake. He threw his phone into the water, blew up an inflatable raft, and then transferred to that vessel before flipping over his kayak to make it look like he had capsized in an accident. For good measure, he also tossed his fishing pole in a tackle box, which had his wallet and keys in it. After making it to shore, he hopped on his e-bike and pedaled through the night, using back roads to travel roughly 70 miles to Madison, Wisconsin, swapped out the bike's battery for a spare he had in reserve. And then so now he was at this point. Then he ditched the e-bike, some clothes, and the inflatable raft at a park, went to Greyhound, and went through Chicago and Detroit before going to Canada. And he produced a passport, but he had no driver's license. Okay. Despite the suspicions, they ultimately let him into the country. He went to the Toronto airport, where he used Western Union card to buy an Air France ticket, flew to Paris. And then he checked to see if there was any news back home. And then he landed in Paris, took another flight to the Soviet Republic of Georgia, where the woman he had been communicating with for months picked him up. They stayed at a hotel for a couple of days. As the weeks passed, okay, he checked everything. Let's see. I want to see what happened to this woman. He claims he was just trying to make things better. Oh, for his family. Sure. Okay. So then he finally sent us a 25-second proof of life video. I'm safe, secure, no problem. And then they continued to reach out to him and pull his little heartstrings. And the sheriff or whatever said that Borgwart's wife and children still very much wanted their husband and father in their lives. Wow. If you actually do want him in your lives, you're fools. At least the wife is fools. You should have nothing to do with this man ever again. And he should never have any right to see the children ever again. So I'm appalling. Christmas is coming, Podol said, his voice straining. And what better gift could he give his kids than to be there for Christmas? Maybe he shouldn't have given them the gift of thinking he was dead. So he shows up for Christmas, all forgiven. All that trauma we went through, the days and nights of crying because my daddy was dead. Well, it's okay. Oh my God. Sheriff says, we brought a dad back on his own accord. Sheriff, you're an ass. Sorry. Yeah, all right. Unbelievable. Oh, you thought his wife was in on the insurance fraud? Oh, so this is another case. Okay. Yeah, I think she found out he was married. Yeah, I think what went wrong was on the other end. First of all, the woman who was over there had never met him. So they spend some time in a hotel. Maybe he just wasn't that good. You know what I mean? And she's like, oh, I don't even like this guy. Or maybe he decided he wasn't going to give her. Maybe he's sending her money. And so she was using him for that. But when he arrived, he didn't have work, couldn't find work. And she's like, I'm not supporting this guy. He's supposed to be giving me money. And she dumped him. God knows. But I just can't believe the sheriff is this much of an idiot. Dude, go get some training in psychology, at least something to understand that you didn't bring a dad back. You brought a psychopath back. And only because he wanted to come back because something went wrong on the other end. He was probably broke. That's all. Did he pay for his own ticket back or did they give that to him? I don't know. But it's annoying. Just annoying. Okay. I want to talk about this woman. This is unbelievable. This is an unbelievable story. Somebody asked me to do this story and I could not believe it when I read it. Let's see. Let me find it. This woman's name is Dominique Cottrez. Hold on. Here we go. French woman jailed for 9 years for killing 8 of her babies. She suffocated her babies shortly after secret births and falsely claimed in court to have had incestuous relationship with her father. A French court has jailed a woman for 9 years for killing 8 of her newborn babies after a harrowing trial in which she lied about having this incestuous relationship with her father. Dominique Cottrez, a 51-year-old former health worker. You know how many times I say women who do Munchausen syndrome by proxy are involved in the medical profession, usually as nurses of some sort? Here we go again. Was found guilty of suffocating 8 of her babies shortly after secretly giving birth to them between 1989 and 2000. Most of the killings occurred in the bathroom floor of her home near the Belgian border. The sentence was half that requested by prosecutors because, you know, babies don't matter. A year for each baby. That's enough. That woman should be in prison for life. But for some reason, when women kill babies, we don't feel that bad for the babies. Oh, well, you know. After 5 hours of deliberation, the jury said Cottrez suffered from impaired judgment. Impaired judgment? Do I have to say the word psychopath again? Visibly relieved at the verdict. I bet she would. Get this. She embraced her husband and 2 daughters. You know the word dolt I use for spouses of this kind of person? Husband is dolt. The 2 daughters should wonder why they want to be around a mother that killed all their brothers and sisters. Her lawyers had pleaded with a 9-member jury to take into account the distress of a fragile woman plagued by neuroses. If this woman took pleasure in her acts, we would not have found the bodies. She conserved them. She woke up at night in winter to cover their bodies. She wasn't conserving them. She was trying to keep them hidden. Another lawyer recalled that other countries such as Finland, Switzerland, and the UK had often reduced the prison sentences of women who killed newborns after pregnancy denial. The pregnancy denial thing is a really interesting issue. And I know people might disagree with me on that, but this concept that you had no idea you were pregnant until the moment the baby was born, I find extraordinarily hard to believe, except in very rare circumstances. Because anybody who's ever been pregnant knows that during those entire 9 months, it's very hard not to have symptoms of one sort or the other that would tell you to at least take a pregnancy test. Carlier said Cottrez had been destroyed after a midwife chided her for being overweight during the birth of her first child. Oh, back pain can make you murder, but so can being fat. If you're fat, you're probably a murderer. Or at least it's a good excuse to be a murderer. Why shouldn't you be able to murder? Right now I'm overweight, so watch out. I might do you in because I'm in distress. She was destroyed because a midwife said, probably said to her, because you're overweight, we have to do certain things. I guess the midwife shouldn't have mentioned that, but that destroyed her. We never pleaded innocence, only distress. So then again, let's look at Luigi Mangion. He was in distress, so he had the right to go shoot down a guy in the middle of New York City because he was in distress. Serial killers are often in distress. They're angry at life. A lot of serial killers are very angry with society. They feel they've been done wrong by their family, the community, whatever. The bitch maybe do it too, you know. So, hey, I was in distress, so I had the right to kill. Cotrez's crimes were uncovered in July of 2010 when the new owner of her parents' former home in northern France unearthed the bodies of 2 of her infants wrapped in plastic bags and buried in the garden. A police investigation turned up 6 other tiny corpses in a tank in the garage at their Cotrez's home. The housewife initially told investigators that she had feared the babies were born from a sexual relationship with her father that had taken place from her childhood until his death in 2007. However, testing showed her husband had fathered the children. Now, the husband is in court, I guess, hugging his wife after she killed all his kids. Okay. And what, as a big fat liar? All right. And in a spectacular turnaround, on Monday, she admitted in court she had fabricated the story because she's a psychopath. Cottrez was able to hide the pregnancies from her doctors, as well as her husband and her 2 adult daughters, in part due to her obesity. So where did she sleep when she was pregnant? So you can be pretty fat, but, you know, pregnancy will make your abdomen hard as a rock. And, you know, your husband's lying there in bed and her body, her stomach starts going, and he goes, "What's happening there, honey?" And she goes, "I got gas." I mean, maybe he is a dolt, real bad dolt, but "I did this alone," I admitted, she told the court, though she added she believed her husband had been aware what was happening. Okay, so the magistrate said the killings have been carried out with determination, awareness, organization, above all, cool-headedness. Yes, premeditated murder of children. The prosecutor said she needed to go to prison so that she realizes the absolute horror of the crimes she has committed. That's not why you send somebody to prison. You send them to prison for justice. She doesn't care about the baby. She never did. She doesn't think she's done a bad thing because that's what psychopaths think. She's just probably perfectly happy with it. But that's not why you send people to prison. It's because they're murderers. So anyway, she got 8 years. 9 years? 9 years for killing 8 babies. And I guess she might get out for good behavior too. I don't know what France has going for it. Unbelievable. Oof, I tell you. Oh, jeez. I discuss dead babies a lot around Christmas and Valentine's Day. No, only because somebody told me to. They sent me this one and say, "Pat, can you discuss it?" But I'm not going to comment on some of your other comments because you can read them if you're. There's some of them are very amusing, but I won't try to say that. Yes, this is correct. Lynn says that's 1 year and 6 weeks per murder. Gotcha. So this is we downplay. I can't believe how often when a baby is killed, if a mother kills her baby, she gets very low time. And if a guy kills a baby, he gets much more time. But if a woman kills a baby, for some reason, we just say, well, she must have been freaked out or in denial or emotionally disturbed. So we're just going to give her a slap on the wrist, as if the baby doesn't matter. The baby lost its life. The baby was brutally murdered. And we're supposed to feel sorry for the mother, which is not much of a mother. She's just a female had a baby. Unbelievable. That story was really creepy. This is a kind of an amusing story in the sense that this looks like a very nice fella. It does. And the Innocence Project had his back. His name is Shaurn Thomas. He poses for a photo with his attorneys, James Figorsky and Marissa Bluestein of the Pennsylvania Innocence Project. He got out. They got him out, and they said he was wrongly convicted of a crime in, he was exonerated of a murder. In 2017, he was exonerated of a murder in Philadelphia. He insisted for decades he didn't commit. He settled soon after with the city for $4 million and an apology for spending 24 years in prison. All right. Now, what I often point out is if you go back and read this stuff, mostly they still think he did it. I think he got out on a technicality, and because over time there were some issues with witnesses and something else, so he got out. But there was never any proof he didn't do it, and they still believe he probably did do it. But anyway, gets out, gets $4 million, but apparently he's back in prison because he committed another murder. And this is bizarre. So Thomas, 50 years old, was convicted of shooting and killing an associate, Akeem Edwards, in January 2023. Now, mind you, this guy he got $4 million for being, quote, wrongfully in prison. $4 million. But he ends up shooting an associate. An associate? Associate / drug dealer. In January 2023, over what a co-conspirator testified was a $1,200 drug debt. Okay, so you couldn't have paid the dude off. So Thomas's exoneration 7 years ago is a triumph for the Pennsylvania Innocence Project, which works to overturn wrongful convictions. Its attorneys were part of the team that overturned his 1994 conviction and life sentence after arguing that prosecutors botched the case by ignoring witnesses who could provide an alibi for the then 16-year-old Thomas. And that's really shaky. And I don't know that I'll do a whole show on this. I've done a lot of shows on what I consider wrongfully released people who they claim were wrongfully convicted. So anyway, yeah. So now their attorneys are trying to say he was traumatized by being falsely imprisoned, so he didn't adjust to life outside. So he had to kill somebody. Again, he was in distress. There's so much distress going on. And just wow. Oh Lord. This is a psychopath night. I swear to God. I don't know why so many of these tonight. I do want to mention this one because I was asked to do this case. So David Burke. I have never heard of this case. But this was on the heels of the shooting of the CEO. That this guy did something. He also killed in revenge, but he actually killed in revenge for something that happened to him let's see. It wasn't even by the, I take that back. It was revenging the company who did something to him. Okay. As opposed to just being a hero in the minds of other people. This guy actually took revenge. Now, let me find it. Where'd it go? Hold on. That must have been the one I accidentally hit. Let me find his name again so I can pull it back up. David Burke. David Burke. He took it down a whole plane. I mean, it was something else. Plane crash. There we go. All right. So this, I had not heard of this. Pacific Southwest Airlines flight in 1771 was scheduled. It was going from Los Angeles to San Francisco. On December 7th, 1987, it crashed after being hijacked by a passenger. All 43 passengers and crew aboard of the plane died. So just like Luigi's considered just blowing up New York and killing a whole bunch of innocent people, this guy didn't care that innocent people died along with the company he was trying to revenge. So it's interesting to me that this is where the psychopathy thing comes in, that if you're a guy who, let's say a guy rapes and murders your daughter and you go to court and he gets let out by the system and you go and kill that guy because you know he did it, I won't call you a psychopath. You're going to really have distress. Now, if you go and shoot the judge and all of the jury, I have issues with that. Not that I don't have issues with the committing murder anyway, but if you can sort of see why the guy could lose it if this guy got off after raping and murdering his little girl. So he goes and shoots him. Well, he has to go to prison because he's paid the price. He's willing to do the crime. He's got to do the time. And so, yes, he still needs to go to prison regardless of my sympathies toward him. But at least he would just take out the guy who was the criminal. In the Luigi Mangion case, a lot of people saying, well, he took out a criminal because Brian Thompson was his head of this insurance cartel, making a fortune while everybody else is struggling and losing their homes and losing their loved ones and not getting their stuff covered so they don't get medical attention. They die. He's like a mass murderer. Some people think of it that way. But, so he's you can sort of see where the thinking goes. But in this particular case, this guy, David Burke, was pissed at the company, and he took down a pile of innocent people and innocent pilots and innocent flight attendants. Let's see what happened. All 43 passengers and crew aboard the plane died, 5 of whom, including the 2 pilots, were presumably shot dead before the plane crashed. The perpetrator, David Burke, was a disgruntled former employee of U.S. Air. All right, second worst mass murder in California history. Now, what happened was this. So it gets more interesting as you find out who this guy is. All right. Let's find out. Okay. So David Burke was a ticketing agent, and he was terminated for petty theft of $70 from an in-flight cocktail receipts. He also has been suspected of involvement with a narcotics ring after meeting with Ray Thompson, his manager, in an unsuccessful attempt to be reinstated. He purchased a ticket on PSA flight 1771. Now, he could have shot the manager for firing him, but he didn't. He went and got on the plane, and he managed to get on because they didn't take his credentials away right away, so he was able to sneak by with a gun at LAX. So he got into the plane, and then he took the plane down. Okay? Now, let's go to find out who David Burke was. And was this just a guy who was a really great guy, and then this distress hit his life? I like the new word distress. This distress hit his life unfairly. In other words, they accused him of taking $70 worth of these receipts, money somehow, and maybe being involved in some kind of drug ring. So he got let go. He was born in Croydon, England, to Jamaican parents. Burke later emigrated to the United States with his parents. He had previously worked for U.S. Air in Rochester, New York, where he was a suspect in a drug smuggling ring that was bringing cocaine from Jamaica to Rochester via the airline. Never officially charged, he reportedly relocated to Los Angeles to avoid future suspicions. And now this begins to sound like hospitals will have a doctor there who's been or an anesthesiologist, and they suspect that anesthesiologist is killing patients, but instead of doing something about it, they let him go, and he goes to another hospital and does it again. And after they finally catch up with him, you can go back over the 5 hospitals he worked at and find all these people died when he was the anesthesiologist. Same kind of thing. So they already suspected that, but he stayed within the company anyway. So he relocated to Los Angeles. Some former girlfriends, neighbors, and law enforcement officials described him as a violent man before flight 1771. He had 7 children from 4 women, but never married. So I'm going to say that wasn't this one distress thing that bugged him, but he was probably involved in the drug smuggling and was a criminal and a psychopath. And then when they caught up with him, he was pissed off that they caught him and was angry and decided he's going to show them. And he did. So took the whole plane down. So again, when you're talking about psychopaths, everything is about what's in their own mind and what they think makes them a hero or what makes them say, ha, ha, ha. And it can be just anything. And it doesn't, the logic you would think, you say, well, that's not logical. Why would he kill innocent people? He could just kill off the manager. Well, Luigi's going to say, see, I was logical. But again, is it logical? And does Luigi really have any issue with the insurance system? Does he really? His family was wealthy. So if he did, it was just a political thing. He was, he had a political thing, but not a personal thing. I don't see how it would be personal because he wasn't suffering from the insurance system. So it's interesting the way their minds work. Stargazing Koberger. Yeah. And people, that case, Now, there's already conspiracy theories on the Koberger case, and that he didn't really stab the 4 people to death, the 4 students to death, even though his DNA was on the sheath that was left at the scene. That was probably planted, as everything was planted on Luigi there. The gun was planted. He didn't even complain that the gun was planted. If you're gonna, you should complain not about the money. He claimed that they planted money on him, but not the gun. Okay. So, yeah. He should have been. Which one do you think should be in Starsky and Hutch? Somebody said. I'm trying to see what you're saying here. Michaela, you're getting a lot of hate. We don't hate people here. Oh, that's a good question, Lisa. Do you think there are more psychopaths than ever before, or just that we have defined and studied them so we see they exist? Yeah, they should just call that guy a bad hombre. It's like, that dude's bad, man. I think because the psychology wasn't so clear, yeah, they would just basically, you had some bad person. You just call the person evil. They're evil. They're off their. They're not. They're just angry, crazy guy. So there was a lot of just a sort of a simple label to chuck around. And yet today, actually, I'm the one who uses psychopath way more than anybody else, because people work overtime not to use the word, especially psychologists. They don't like that word. They'll come up with a whole bunch of other words, which is in their DSMV, which to me is just they change that book all the time and add tons and tons of labels in there. And I think it's for filling out forms and making money. But in the long run, the label it's useful in understanding that the person is not somebody you can fix, and that you have to be careful about believing anything they say. And that's the problem when people don't understand the way a psychopath thinks. They can misinterpret that person's behaviors and what they say, and therefore they can get taken advantage of by them. They can get harmed by them, and people even in the system will let them out of prison because they'll say, well, he's now reformed. But he's not, because he's not. You cannot reform somebody like that. It doesn't work that way. So you have to have a basic understanding. I think it'll be useful, but I don't know that it's. Yes, I think it's you probably hear the word more now simply because we have the internet and we've got masses of mass media and communications. Where back in the old days, you had a local paper, and that was it. And so you might say something like, guy killed his wife last night. And they go, oh, that guy, he was a bad guy. And that was just written up. That was, guy killed his wife. There wasn't a big discussion about it, because where are you going to have the big discussion? There was some letter to the editors, but now you see the discussions everywhere on the internet. It's just massive. So people have a way to speak out now, and people who have different opinions can speak out on YouTube, like myself. And then, people can watch my show, but they can go watch 10 other shows and get 10 different opinions. And then the media outlets are huge, and they're not just in paper form anymore that arrive on your doorstep. They're now on the internet. So when I grew up, I had the choice of the Washington Post, which is the morning paper, and the Washington. That was pretty much it. And then you had the news that on the 3 channels, ABC, CBS, NBC, and you got the news at 6. I think my parents watched they like the 11 o'clock news. So I think they watched the 11 o'clock news, maybe 10 o'clock news. Not sure how late they stayed up. So in the morning, my father would read the paper, and I would grab pieces of the paper, usually, the fun stuff. And then at night they would watch the news, and we wouldn't, because we were already in bed. And that was it. But now let's say I want to learn, I want to figure something out. I want to see what's out there. I want to know what the facts are. I can go online, and I'm looking within seconds at the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times. I'm looking at the Daily Mail from the UK. I'm looking at The Guardian. I'm looking at Fox. I'm looking at, it's just, every outlet there is. And I go to Google News, which it does control what you think, because they put what they want at the top. But anyway, I click through them, searching, and then I put in search terms to find out information I want. So the amount of information we can get and consider is so huge in comparison to years ago. So I don't know. I think years ago, they probably rarely used the word psychopath. They just said, he's an evil guy, bad guy. That was that. A lot simpler back then. So, but that was a good question. Michaela, I don't think I've ever met a psycho before, but thanks to Pat, I'm too scared to step out my front door. Psychos abound. My guess is you have, actually, but most psychopaths, as I always point out, are not violent. Most psychopaths are manipulative people, and they can make for a miserable marriage. They can make for a miserable parent, a miserable child, a miserable brother, a miserable sister, miserable girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. They can make you miserable because of the way they manipulate and don't care about you, but you don't realize it. So oftentimes it's too late. Now, some of them are involved in domestic violence as well. But and some go into many, many careers, which psychopathy is an advantage. And let's not go politics here, because I know some people like to do that, but let's not do that. This is not a political channel, and I hate the nastiness politics brings. But it's just, there's many, many fields where you can be successful with that. But also you can be successful having just a strong ego, having just a strong personality. It doesn't make you a psychopath just because you go into politics or into religion or into being a car salesperson. I mean, there's, it's our CEO or involved in the insurance business. Is everybody involved in the insurance business? Is every CEO a psychopath? Some people argue that one, but yeah. So let's see what else I want to talk about. Oh, this is just a really, I was talking about this one. We let people off the hook for responsibilities. And this has been a big, there's actually a I'm not going to link it because I think it's I don't want to promote it necessarily, but there is a quote documentary, and the guy's very polite doing the documentary, and it's making a fortune, and she made a fortune off of it. And so it's a YouTube documentary. Now, I love how she's called an influencer. She's an OnlyFans influencer. No, she's a sex worker. She's a prostitute. That's what she is. And if you think she's an influencer, that's the concern, that many people do feel they're putting out people who are involved in prostitution and sex work as somebody to look up to. And that horrifies me when I think of teenage girls who think it's cool and they're looking up to somebody like her. Well, what has she just done that was absolutely appalling? OnlyFans influencer Lily Phillips got emotional. And she got emotional. And people are like, oh, I feel bad for her. I do not feel bad for her. I feel bad for every young woman who she thinks that she should be Lily Phillips. She completed her challenge to sleep with 100 men in a day. Yes, in a day. She says, it's not for the weak, if I'm honest. It was hard. What is it for then? I mean, what kind of person does this kind of thing, Lily? What kind of human being are you except a garbage human being? So she says, I don't know if I'd recommend it. You think? You shouldn't recommend it? Maybe you should recommend not being a prostitute, but hey, I guess that doesn't, whatever. She explained the experience didn't feel as if she was just having casual sex with another person. As she opened up about her experience, she began to get emotional. Just one in and one out, it feels intense. Well, there's a lot of hatred toward the men who abused her. The 100 men who stood in line to have sex with her. There's a ton of women going, how could they do this to her? No, she chose to do this. She chose to do this horrible act over and over to do a documentary, and she made a crap load of money off of it. And when she cried and said she felt bad, it was because she thought she didn't give each one of them enough pleasure. Not because she had sex with 100 men. And
I won't use the word. Starts with H. Anyway, you know, to lift her up on any pedestal, to look up, to feel sorry for her. There's only one way I can feel sorry for her, is that I don't know what happened to you in your life to turn you into this horrible person, this absolutely despicable human being who is doing damage to women everywhere, as most of the porn stuff does damage to women, because it presents to men a style of sex which is not what women want, but men think women want, and therefore, and they're so they become so. The men watch so much porn that by the time they get with a woman, making love is off the plate. You know, it's like they don't even understand the concept of making love anymore. They're all about having sex and getting kinky and all the things that they want to do to the woman. And that's not what sex was supposed to be about. And for a person going out and promoting that, she's harming women terribly. So I don't know why certain feminists are out there saying this is a great thing. It's not. And that's why for many years it's been illegal. Prostitution has been illegal for a good reason. Yes, it's true that it probably can't stop it from going on, but it used to sort of happen in places which at least were not prominent on the internet. And porn also was something that used to be somewhat well hidden. You could get porn, but you had to go to that store on the side of edge of town and pay $20 for one magazine. But with the advent of porn on the internet, which is available and free, even to now they're trying to go after Pornhub now, because Pornhub, people are going into Pornhub. They have a disclaimer on there that just says, "Are you over 18 or under 18?" And don't ask me how I know that. But you can click on that. Even if you're under 18, you can click on it and you can watch all the hardcore porn you want. And this is just this is a most horrible, unhealthy thing I've ever seen for humanity, and for relationships. And I think we're seeing it go through society, where the concept of making love is gone. And even young teenagers are just into, hey, we're going to we're just going to do it. Do what? It's like I don't know. It's not about two people caring about each other or even being attracted to each other and not being able to stop themselves. It's simply about doing the dirty, and let's just do that. Let's do this and let's do that. And let me do this to you. And there's a lot of humiliation involved a lot of times. And in this documentary, she does stuff that any woman would consider humiliating. But she goes, ah. And it's highly disturbing. But what disturbed me more was that people weren't upset with the concept of the damage it does to everyone, to our young people and to our society. They're more just feeling bad for her. So just like, do you feel bad for a serial killer? Serial killer goes out there and kills a bunch of people. Do you feel bad for him because he had something in his childhood made him into a psychopath? Well, maybe something in her childhood made her become this person who is pretty despicable. But do you feel sorry for this? If you don't feel sorry for the serial killer, don't feel sorry for her either. She's chosen her road, and at this point, she's damaged goods that probably can't recover. And I don't know what kind of personality disorder she has, but I'm going to say she's got one. And the fact that she would flaunt this, her parents are out there, and supposedly they're okay with it. Parents are out there. Can you imagine? I mean, if there's any reason for, just checking your kid out the door and saying, hey, you're disowned, this would be it. You have no respect for your parents, no respect for anybody in your family. And if you ever have kids, you've got no respect for them either, because they're going to have to live with this forever. And that means, to me, probably you're a psychopath. Oh, I had to get that in at the end. It's a psychopath night. I don't know. Yeah. Mom and dad would be proud of her. And, this concept sometimes that is, it's female empowerment. Prostitution across the world has never been about female empowerment. It's been about females trying to survive. And a lot of places where they're not forced into prostitution, because a lot of places that in many certain countries, women are forced into prostitution. Children are forced into prostitution. They live freaking horrible lives in brothels, horrible lives. And I feel very bad for them because that's not a road they chose. They were truly abducted, and they're being kept in captivity and tortured. We should be going after all of that. But so that's one group of women, and then there's the group that do it to survive. In some countries, women aren't forced, but they don't have any other way to eat food. They need food, and they need food for their child. They have zero way of making any money. So they will go into prostitution to survive. I don't have any problem with those women either. I have a problem with the society that put those women in that situation. I feel very bad for them. And I understand why they're doing what they're doing. But we've gotten to this point where the stuff with OnlyFans and pornography, where women are proudly getting into this as a profession, and how we're supposed to support this as a profession, think it's a perfectly great thing for women to do. Or men. Some men are the same thing. Why are they doing it? And it's extraordinarily sad. It's very destructive to society. And I just don't know why we don't get that. And so she's out there, and she's become the talk of the town. And now she wants, so for all those people feeling bad about her, just so you know, next time she said she wants to do 1,000 in one day. Yeah. Is this criminal profiling or sex education? I always get sex into a show only because, when you come right down to it, there's an awful lot of crimes around sex. Obviously, sexual homicides are around sex. There are a lot of domestic situations which are around that. And then we have, trafficking issues. Point out, now this is interesting. People sometimes point out about sex trafficking of children into the U.S., but most of the time it's not for sex. It's for employment. And they just caught, let me see, this place, a cleaning company has been fined $171,000 after federal investigators found 11 children working a dangerous overnight shift at a meat processing plant in Iowa. The U.S. Labor Department said in a statement it found the children working for a sanitation company, Kvest, that's what at the Seaboard Triumph Foods pork factory in Sioux City, Iowa. The children were employed to use corrosive cleaners to clean head splitters, jaw pullers, band saws, neck clippers, and other equipment at the Seaboard Triumph Foods facility for at least 4 years worth of time. It is illegal under the U.S. law for anyone younger than 18 to work in meat processing. Quest must pay a fine and not engage in oppressive child labor, as per court ruling. Believe me, that's all it is. They said in a written statement that it was not accused of any wrongdoing, did not tolerate any vendors' use of underage labor, and had no evidence that under individuals accessed the plant. Okay, so the Seaboard is saying, we didn't know that these were children being sent over. Quest must hire a third-party company to review its policies on underage employment within 90 days and establish a process for whistleblowers to report illegal employment of children. It is the second time a contractor has been caught employing children at the same facility. They agreed, this janitorial service has agreed to pay nearly $650,000 for using almost 24 children at the Sioux City plant. So this is going on, and also Purdue is also doing this. Now, Fayette, the Fayette janitorial service says it no longer employs minors. Okay, so you ask, where are these minors coming from? Well, they discovered that labor and violations in 2024 involved more than 4,000 children, uncovered in 736 investigations, resulted in $50 million in fines. And the fines are the cost of business for a lot of these places. So these children are being victimized. Now, where are these children coming from, you say? The situation underscores the problems facing employers throughout the country. Say now its employers they're being screwed. They're the victims now. Why? Because the minors obtain jobs through the use of fraudulent identification documents, which are sophisticated enough to fool even the federal government's E-Verify system. So in a way, they probably know these people are underage. These kids are underage. They probably know that, and they probably know the documentation is fraudulent. But they're saying we couldn't tell because they are good pieces of documentation. A year-long NBC News investigation into underage workers in slaughterhouses highlighted how children were being hired in these facilities. So a 16-year-old named Duvan Perez, who died after getting stuck in the machinery after getting the job using an ID of a 32-year-old man. He's 16, 32. Really? You couldn't tell the diff? Obviously, we're talking about illegal aliens, children who have been trafficked into the country. And they're being hired, and probably they're being controlled by a group that is bringing them in to do this kind of employment. And that's the kind of trafficking. We see that kind of trafficking in a lot of countries where it's mostly not sex trafficking, but it is labor trafficking of young people who they can control. The families either give the children over to work under a certain situation, maybe even get some money sent home or whatever. And that's the bigger problem. Although sex trafficking, not usually in the United States so much, but in many, many countries also happens. So children, so it's really, really sad for the children. Nike uses child labor. And also when you're in foreign lands, some of the rules are different in foreign lands. So, and then it depends what their rules are, what their laws are as to how young a child can be in certain situations. But then there are times when children are actually being trafficked into a country to do specific kinds of work that they can't find enough people to do, and that's some pretty horrible stuff. And sometimes they'll even tell the families, we're taking these children and they're going to go to boarding school, things like that. I think there was one down in Haiti was like that, where they were telling the families they were taking the children and to get an education in boarding school. And the families were desperate, so they're like, oh, that sounds great. And they looked like they were, honorable people. And they took these children and put them to work. And that's child labor. That's all it was. Very, very sad. So, yeah. Got a lot of that going. Let's see, is there anything else I want to talk about? It's almost time. I'm going to just do this one more because this comes out of the UK. Not him. Oh, no, I won't mention him. He's kind of funny, though. I mean, in a terrible way. In a terrible way. He's from my neighbor, not my neighborhood. And where is this thing? Talk about a guy who really wanted to do somebody in. He went out of his way. So this guy broke into a Fort Washington man. Fort Washington is about 25 minutes away from my house. He was wearing body armor and packing multiple weapons, was arrested after breaking into a Great Mills home and attacking the victim. Now, this guy, it's amazing that this victim survived this. The victim, there was a frantic 911 call from the victim shortly before 8:30 p.m. on a Friday. The caller reported that a man was attempting to force his way into the residence with loud noises captured in the background during the call. When the deputies arrived, Robert Eric Hyatt Jr., 38, surrendered without incident, which is kind of interesting that he did. And at the time he was detained, he was found carrying a 9mm handgun, brass knuckles, and a large knife while sporting bulletproof armor. Inside the home, deputies found the victim on a balcony with serious injuries, including a gunshot wound to the shoulder and a laceration to the head. I mean, that victim got lucky to make the phone call before he rolled in the door. Unbelievable. He really, I don't know. There's no more news on this one, so it sounds to me like an ex-boyfriend or something. It's gone after the victim. They haven't been clear about that, but I tell you, domestic situations can be very dangerous. So, my new boy toy. Wait a minute. Seriously? I think I'll skip him. Probably a security guard. Could be. Hey, why everybody trying to hook me up with a dude? Okay, I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to stop for tonight. This is the one out of England. I don't have her picture. Where did her picture go? I had a pretty picture of her. This is Irfan Sharif on the left, and his wife, Banash Batul. And then this is the uncle on the right side. That's Faisal Malik. They were all convicted of Sara Sharif's murder. And what was so horrible about this, I can't believe I don't have her picture. Where'd her picture go? Oh, She's a beautiful little girl. She was 10 years old. And this is just one of these things that the system failed her so damn dismally. Let me see if I can find a picture of her. They found her. I think this is a good picture of her. I'm just going to hold it up because I forgot to send it over. There she is, little 10-year-old girl. It said here, the prosecutor said Sara had been brutally mistreated, abused, and violently assaulted for years. A post-mortem found Sara had 71 external injuries and at least 25 fractures. Sara's father had killed her 2 days before he fled to Pakistan. And he said they got him on he actually wrote, he said that he did not intend to kill her, that he just lost it. And he said, I beat her up. It wasn't my intention to kill her, but I beat her up too much. Now, you ask, did anybody have a clue that this poor girl was in a dangerous situation? Well, hell yeah. And that's the thing that's so upsetting about this particular case. So let me find it here. All right. Questions were raised over missed opportunities to save the girl after conviction. After they just convicted them. They were found guilty of her murder. The father and stepmother were found guilty of her murder. And there were questions raised. There were many missed opportunities to save her. She suffered a daily living hell. She was slowly tortured to death over many months by her dad, he says, oh, I beat her. I didn't mean to kill her. I just beat her too much. He's trying to say this is a one-time incident. It wasn't a one-time incident. He was described in court as a psychopath. Hey, I didn't say it. He was described as a psychopath who probably he got caught, and that's why he ran to Pakistan. And now he has to admit he did it. And he's trying to play it off. I didn't mean to do it. I love her. I lost it. He's a controlling, violent bully. The 43-year-old was convicted of murder at the Old Bailey on Wednesday after an 8-week trial. His wife, Banash Badul, 30, was also found guilty. His brother, Faisal Malik, 29, was found guilty of causing or allowing Sara's death. Now, he held his head in his hands. And the wife cried. All right. Now, what happened? This is Sara's mother, Olga Domin, paid tribute to her daughter, saying, my dear Sara, asked God to please take care of my little girl. She was taken too soon. All right. What happened there? Sara was found dead in a bunk bed at the family home in Surrey on August 10th, 2023. He had killed her 2 days earlier and fled to Pakistan, where he called police to say he'd beaten her up because she was naughty. He had left a handwritten confession near her fully closed body saying, I swear to God, my intention was not to kill her, but I lost it. He's looking for a lesser sentence. Sharif, a taxi driver, had lied repeatedly to the jury for 6 days as he denied assaulting Sara. But on the 7th day, he finally said, okay, I take responsibility for her death. He admitted binding Sara with packing tape and beating her with a cricket bat, a metal pole, and a mobile phone. He denied biting her, putting her in a homemade hood, and burning her with an iron and boiling water. Batul, that's the wife, I guess, who had refused to provide her dental impressions, did not give evidence during the trial. Sharif fostered a culture of violent discipline where assaults of Sara become completely routine and normalized. This went on for years. And you wonder, they said, she's a schoolgirl. She went to school. Where the hell was everybody? The questions are being raised as to how his abuse went undetected for so long, given the family had repeatedly attracted the attention of social services, police, and the schools over a period of 16 years. He had been arrested previously on suspicion of assaulting Sara's siblings when one was a baby and another was a child. He had also been arrested on suspicions of abusing 3 unconnected Polish women, including Sara's mother. In each of these cases, an investigation was carried out with insufficient evidence to proceed. You wonder how much evidence do you need when a guy is committing this much abuse of the people around him? The police said the force's contact with the family goes back some years. They were properly referred to into the custody family court hearing around the placement of Sara. Sara's return, the Surrey County Council is understood to have supported Sara's return to her father in 2019 because that had been her preference. What's the point of having family services if they're this absolutely ignorant? Unbelievable. Libby Clark, a specialist prosecutor for the Crown prosecution, said she believed Sharif's willingness to go on parenting and domestic violence courses was likely to have helped his custody case. It's always nice to know that if you take a class on not beating your child, that works. And if anybody ever gets custody of their children after that kind of situation, they should be watched like a hawk. She said, he's quite a clever man. No, I don't think he was clever. I think everybody around him was stupid. And I know the extent to which he went on those courses to be a better parent. Undoubtedly, going on those courses was part of the ongoing proceedings, but he knew how to behave on them because he's a psychopath. Psychopaths know how to play the system because the system lets them be played. The system doesn't have a problem with them being played. I think he was clever enough to give them the right answers. Of course he was. And they were stupid enough to accept them. Let's see. Her father had been accused of abuse by 3 women, and Sara was placed under a child protection plan at birth. Well, that was really useful. The clear evidence of significant risk, yet despite multiple signs of ongoing harm, the system failed to act decisively. Instead of ensuring her safety, family courts prioritized reunification at the expense of her life. This crap, reunification, is a problem in the United States as well, that they go out of their way to give a child back to a biological parent, in spite of the fact it is a danger to the child, and that biological parent has in no way proven that they actually are safe to raise that child. Sometimes they take that child, put that child with a family, a pre-adopt family, a foster family, who cares and loves for that child. And that child grows up for maybe 3 to 4 years, calling those people mommy and daddy and brother and sister and having a life with those people. And then the courts tell them, you got to give that child back to the one who abandoned them because they took a parenting class. And then that child is murdered. Absolutely appalling. And I think in that kind of case, maybe they should take those family services people who allowed this abuse, and they should be charged with aiding and abetting. So that's my final rant for the night. Horrifying, absolutely horrifying. Well, it seems to me that social service is basically useless. Well, the problem we have, and I'll give social services some leeway here. When you have terrible parents, people having children who are drug addicts, abusers, having children they can't take care of, the social services does get overburdened with a whole bunch of little kiddies. What do you do with them? So now you try to put them in a place. You try to get foster parents. Some of those foster parents aren't too safe either. So, because why are they foster parenting? Some because they truly love children, some because they want the money. And it's a terrible situation all the way around. So I know that the social services is in the middle of this mess where they're trying to figure out, where can we even keep this kid? What should we do? Do we get the child to have find a home that adopt the child? Do we get the kid back to those biological parents? And I think everybody is so overburdened that they can't do a proper job of really, really assessing the situation so that that child has a chance in life. And I have been involved twice with the social service system as a adoptive parent and as a foster parent. And I was not happy. Now, luckily, my son, who I adopted at age 5, who'd been through the foster system, then he came to us, and that worked out well. And he's a good guy, and he's now in his 40s and a good fellow. But I did have a foster daughter, a deaf foster daughter, who was pregnant at 13 years old. Actually got pregnant at 12. And my experience with the foster system was horrible. And I gave her the first home she'd ever had with somebody who could do sign language with her. And I went to her school events and all kinds of stuff. And she was removed because I would not do some of the bidding of the social services, which I thought was appalling, like allow her to go to the jail to visit the man who got her pregnant, who was in his 30s. In other words, a rapist. Took advantage of a 12-year-old deaf child. And yet she was supposed to go to prison. Actually, it was in prison, I don't think jail. And she was supposed to be able to visit him. And then he was going to come out and get rights on this baby. And it was horrible. And they took her away, and they had her go stay with some hearing people who couldn't even talk to her. So it was just a mess. It was a mess. And they were just cold-blooded. It was the most cold-blooded bunch of people I ever dealt with. And it really, made me not happy about the whole situation. So I've seen good and I've seen bad, but the child is the one that gets screwed in all of this stuff. So this poor Sara, I mean, she, not only did she just not get the best life, she was tortured. And they let it happen. They knew he was abusive, and they put her with an abusive person because he took a parenting class. Anyway, that's it for today. Do I have anything happy to say at the end of this? Because it's Christmas. Let's see. Let me look at my list and see if there's anything fun. Let's see. I am doing a crime channel, so it's kind of hard to have fun. No, well, I guess that is it. Look at the beautiful manger here. Isn't it pretty? I wish all of you have let's see. I will see you. I'll do it. There'll be one. There's a show this weekend on Sunday, and then there'll be a hangout during the week. It's probably going to be maybe on Thursday next week, but it'll be probably at 3:00 for the UK and for Europe. So I think that's. Wait a minute. What part of the week are we even on? I'm trying to figure out the Christmassy stuff. I'm trying to find my calendar here. Okay, we're on the 12th now. Oh, the next week is Thursday the 19th. Okay, so I'll be doing the case show this Sunday, which I don't know what it is yet. That's the 15th, and then on the 19th I'll be doing the hangout, and then okay. And Christmas is in the middle of the week, so that makes it easy. It doesn't interfere with any shows. So anyway, thank you all for being here. So such a lovely topics these days. Yes. Just a season to be jolly. Tra-la-la-la-la-la. Yeah. We want a dear Abby Pat to end the show. Okay. Let's see if I can find a really quick one, because you all know I have Dear Profiler Pat now, the channel Dear Profiler Pat, which you can go to, and I do. I'll link that below. So I do answer questions over there, but let's see if I have a really quick one for you. Let's see, one that just makes me laugh, and I'm not going to do a whole show on. Let's see, where could one be? I know you just like to laugh at what I say. Okay, let's see. How about this one? That's it. I'll have to see if it's a Dear Abby, because she's the one that. Oh, hold on. That's not going to work. I have to find a better one. Let's see. Let's see if this is one. This is a Dear Abby. Dear Abby, I'm a 57-year-old attractive, single, childless woman. Why is it that the men I meet are just plain dumb? I haven't read this one yet. They have the conversational skills of 5-year-olds and some juvenile behavior. I have run into that too. They're either emotionally unavailable and just after sex. Oh, and just after sex, absolutely true. I tell you about this all the time. That's the problem with dating, even at the age I'm at. because when they go on a date, they want sex. If you don't give it to them, you don't get a second date. Or they're at opposite end of the spectrum, emotionally available emotionally, but the sex is just okay. Okay, so she's having sex with a lot of these guys. So, because otherwise she wouldn't know all of this. I can not be the first woman to ask this question. Are boys just dumb? First of all, you're 57 years old and you haven't learned anything in 57 years. Let's see what, I just want to see what Dear Abby says. Dear Smarter, as a matter of fact, you are the first. What? I cannot be the first woman to ask the question. As a matter of fact, you are the first. With the advent of social media, people's social skills began declining. The men you are meeting may not have the same level of education that you do, but that doesn't mean they're dumb. Men ultimately want what a woman wants, I think. Abby, you've been in this business a long time. By that, I mean companionship. Some don't want a companionship. They just want sex. Okay. And a relationship and sex. Okay. You might have better luck if you try to meet men whose values more closely mirror your own. Do some volunteering. Take a class. Join a group activity you enjoy. I love it when these things are suggested all the time. Oh, look, I have for the last 20 years done all those things. It doesn't mean that you necessarily meet people that you really want to spend time with. And I've met some people. Now, guys are going to say the same thing. I've met some women that are just, so guys, I understand what you're saying too. They're like, I always meet these women. They're just greedy and flighty and they have all their issues with women. I think some of these issues are just part of biology, certain ways that male and females think. And it's tough when you're, when you're very young and you meet, there's a whole bunch of different things working when you're teens and in 20s, you're physically attracted to somebody, which doesn't happen when you're older. The physically attractive thing, we're just not that attractive. So consequently, it's not like you go, hot damn, I can't wait to, and also you're excited to experience life with this person. But when you get up to a certain age, you've already experienced life and you have all this baggage with you. And a lot of people get to a certain age, they are stuck in their ways. They really are, male and female. And sometimes they're not very interested in too many things. So their conversations are incredibly dull. I went out with one fellow. Oh my God. I mean, I call him what did I call him? I tried to call him a 2-week boyfriend, because I knew him for 2 weeks. We did not have sex, but he told me right away he didn't want a friend. He wanted a girlfriend. I'm like, okay, but we got to get to know each other. And I think I spent 2 evenings with him, one each week. And I was like, I'm done. He was so incredibly dull, but he'd had his life with his kids and his wife had died. And now he had very limited things he was interested in. And I met him playing pickleball. So he did like pickleball, but after that, it was very, very dull. But a lot of younger people are more enthusiastic about life and trying all kinds of new things. And sometimes when you get to the older people, they have a smaller interest thing. That is a problem. So she's finding them boring and they're probably finding her annoying. And they probably want sex and she doesn't want to give them sex because she thinks they're going to suck at sex. And a lot of guys who are older, quite frankly, may not be able to do too much. And that becomes a problem. And sometimes men just aren't, maybe they're just not that good at it. It's true. But again, when you're younger, you got at least the hormones going. When you're older, it's a lot harder. So she tells her, goes to do some volunteering, take a class, join a group activity. As to your disappointment in the sexual performance of the men in your past who are emotionally unavailable, try to remember that men are teachable creatures, but usually not when you're up there. She's 49. That means she probably can't find anybody to date that's under 60. So it's very difficult to retrain a 60-year-old dude. They're often eager to please. And if you're willing to communicate what you need, perhaps the problem is that communication skills could use some polishing. Oh, it's not that easy, Abby. I mean, yes, some of her concepts are reasonable. Yes, you should try to meet people in areas of interest that you might then have something in common. But believe me, Abby, it's very difficult to find somebody when you're older that you enjoy being with, and the romance thing can be there, the sex thing can be there. It's a very difficult combination. Some people get lucky, but a lot of people struggle with it, and they you know, it's there's a lot more frogs when you get older than when you're 20. At least you get a better looking group of frogs. You get older, you know, not so, it's like more toadish, but it gets more difficult. And we females are not so gorgeous either. So it's much tougher. So all I can say to women like this woman is, you probably are experiencing a lot of that, but make your life better without the thought of constantly trying to find somebody, because you'll drive yourself nuts. Go ahead and do all the things you like doing. And if you do run into somebody and you become friends with them and enjoy their company, maybe there'll be some hope there. But other than that, I wouldn't overdo it and try to figure it all out and try to drive yourself nuts over it. So yeah, otherwise, way too much work. Way too much work. Somebody's dating 16-year-olds? Wait a minute. Speak for yourself, Pat. I'm gorgeous. Well, I'm glad. That is very good. I'm not going to comment. I'm not going to put this information out there on the. Oh my God. Oh, gee, thanks. But you know, it's tough. It's a lot tougher. And when everybody gives these little, oh, if you just did this, you just do this, you just do this, it's like, yeah, right. And although there are channels out there, some YouTube channels get tons of so many views because they're saying that, you know, life after 60 and how you can be gorgeous and how you can have great sex and how you can meet all the right people. And if you watch things like, what's the book club? And you look at the men, the women in the book club get, you know, Jane Fonda, her boyfriend or whatever, the guys they're dating, I'm like, yeah, none of us ever get to date those guys. You know, it's like, sure. Life is more realistic. And, you know, guys are disappointed too. And the problem is just, you know, maybe this guy and that girl or whatever, whomever, will get together and it'll all work out. But it's just not easy. So make your life good without the concept of always having to find a date and find somebody and have a good relationship, because you may never find it. You may not at a certain age. So maybe you'd have to have a good life, and you might get lucky, you know? So, you know, I haven't gotten lucky, but some of you guys might get lucky. And when you do, I think it's a cool thing, but you know, it doesn't, it's just one of these things when I read Dear Abby and she's like, oh, if you just did these things, then it would all work out. Like, yeah, okay. Anyway, that's my Dear Abby for the end. I just found it. Those are my thoughts. You wanted one, so I gave you one. So anyway, good night, everybody. And I'll see some of you on Sunday. If you're new to the channel and you made it through all of this, please just still like and subscribe. And yeah, interesting stories today. Yeah, they're kind of, well, the world is full of awful things, isn't it? And that's why I tell you, got to do things that you really enjoy, because you got to balance out the bad stuff with the good stuff. And there luckily is there's a lot of good stuff out there, but you got to make it happen, and you got to find it. So anyway, good night, everybody. I will see you guys on Sunday. I think, unless something goes wrong. See you then. Bye.